Hello, my name's Rob Havard. I'm a regenerative farmer from Worcestershire and we breed pedigree Aberdeen Angus to breed the most efficient cattle in grass-fed regenerative systems. The topic that I had for my Nuffield scholarship report was the evaluation of selection methods for profitability in grass-fed beef systems. The reason that I chose this topic report was because my experience breeding Aberdeen Angus cattle in regenerative systems had meant that I'd found that there were some cattle, even though they had some of the highest performance figures in the breed, they didn't seem to perform in regenerative low input systems. So I really wanted to find out what people elsewhere in the world were doing to breed cattle that really worked for grass-fed regenerative farms. It's never been more important for us in the beef sector to show that what we do with our beef systems is really good for the environment, but also really good for the welfare of the animals. I found that some of the more intensive systems don't really deliver that within our industry. And so to go and travel the world and find other people doing similar things and learn from them was an opportunity I couldn't miss. One of the things I found breeding cattle in regenerative systems, particularly breeding the high performance cattle, was that in a really low input system, we tend to lose fertility if the animals have got too much energy requirement for other things like growth rate. And if we lose fertility, we lose our profitability. Fertility is considered the most important profit predictor within suckler beef systems. So if we lose that, we lose our profitability, we lose our future calf crop. It was really important to me to find out how other producers were solving this problem across the world. The Nuffield programme gave me the opportunity to travel across the world to find producers that were producing in similar ways to me. I got to travel to South America, Argentina, Uruguay, and look at huge scale operations that were breeding cattle outdoors all year on nothing but grass and see how they were doing it. 10,000 cows in one operation soon shows up any problems, and it was fascinating to see how they solved those problems. I was also lucky enough to travel around Scotland and England and also to Africa, where I visited Uganda to see how small-scale agriculture were also changing things and looking at how they could improve their cattle systems too. My travel time coincided with the COVID pandemic, and so I wasn't able to travel to North America, but I did manage to speak to people via Zoom and on the phone and made some great contacts out there. And it was really interesting to talk to them about the challenges they had producing in regenerative systems. Something I found across the board from South America, North America and the UK and even further abroad were people who were using Jan Bonsma's selection methods to predict fertility by looking at the phenotype of cattle. It was incredible to turn up on one of the ranches in Argentina and find that the rancher had a copy of Jan Bonsma's book in his truck, which he never let go of. He always referred to when he was selecting his cattle. This was a constant theme throughout, and it really led me towards a focus on using Bonsma's methods and to see how they could improve fertility and particularly production in regenerative systems. One of the main takeaways I had from this whole process was perhaps not that it was important how you selected for different traits, but what you selected for that was most important. And in particular, it was to consider what might be antagonistic traits. So for example, if you selected for growth rate and you selected fertility, you might find that these were antagonistic, moving in two different directions, and might prevent you getting anywhere in either of those directions. The main conclusion that I've drawn from my time on the study tour has been that functional fertility is the paramount trait that we must select for. We can select for other things, but if we forget about the functionality of the cattle, the fact that they must be sound on their feet, have good leg structure, good udder structure, that they don't have problems, and most importantly that they have fertility, because that's where our calf crop comes from, then if we focus on that, then everything else we try and achieve in terms of improvement in growth rate or weaning weight or whatever it is we want to select for must not be at the expense of functional fertility. If we focus on that, we might be able to make improvements elsewhere, but we must never sacrifice that, or we potentially sacrifice the ability of our cows to be efficient producers in grass-fed beef systems.